Okay, we got another small debunk here that Superiorita have put out another one of his videos that has false information on it. He's gonna say false information in it, or have this guy here try to do it. Some very admixed light black guy who's gonna smile and talk real wide as he lies to people, and it looks like he's at church, and I sure not hope so. But there's been a lot of cases people have seen that the blacks actually using church for false agendas and racism and lying and saying that they were in the Bible in it, and that Jesus is black and all kinds of blasphemous things. But were the Egyptians a Negroid?
And contrary to popular thought, it wasn't all Africans.
Oh,
In fact, there was truly a time when Africa was a land of kings.
Caucasian kings. That's amazing. Okay, so what's the deal all about slavery?
The original slaves were European. The word slave comes from the word Slav.
The original slaves weren't European. Slavery goes back way before recorded time, and no one can pinpoint where it goes on. And whenever we first had dealings with black people, they're already fighting other tribes and capturing and enslaving each one and doing all kinds of things, including cannibalism. But he probably wouldn't want to say that with a smile on his face to these people.
Okay, which you guys think of Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, right? Because of the amount of slaves that came from that region, that came from the region of the Europeans, and were circulated amongst the Romans and the Greeks. So slavery was not something that was limited. In fact, it wasn't a phenomenon of the African continent.
No, it's a phenomenon of the African continent, definitely, but other places too. And the reason they call it Slav and slavery is that it was real prevalent in that area in the Slavs. But it also has a key back onto it. It might have a reason they even named them Slavs in the first place. It's not like Yugoslavia and so on, but that it comes from Slav with a Y, like slay. And so you can get a connotation of slave instead of Slav, straight out of the wording. But no, it's not exclusive in any way. Blacks, no, it's not some big thing that you can cry about and everything. It's just you were recently West African primitives and stuff and didn't know any of the rest of the world exists, so you try to grip at things like we was Egyptians, or we were this, or we were that. He's about to go on and try to pump up Mansa Mussa, and I could tell you something about that too.
But instead, it was something that found itself into Roman and Greek society.
So it found itself into it. They weren't really going hard with that, but of all their conquering, they didn't as much too. And the Persians, oh, they leave people alone and let them keep their religion. They just wanted to be over you and have some little taxes. It was more about that, yeah, rather than trying to displace people. But before this, and the Acadians and stuff and their great empires, they would displace people totally to different cities and stuff and get them disheveled, and so it made them eat easier for them to work with. But let's go on to Mansa Mussa.
In 1312, when he takes power, he inherits a string of titles.
And he inherits a lot of money. And they act like he built it up from zero whenever they try to point him out. But he took the money that had been all built up and built it up some more and did some things that they don't want to mention, like sell off some of their own people and exploit ivory and kill off a lot of elephants and things. And yeah, it gets out of hand.
King of Kings. Lion of Mali.
The Mali Empire was started by Queen Tinhanen. She was a Caucasian Berber, and all of North Africa was always Caucasians. And after they made the mistake of the slave trade, and there was mix and everything else, and the people were seeing it to be such a desert that really wasn't workable, ended up having somebody like this actually come into charge, for they had been under slavery for over 1,000 years. The Islamic slave trade started 900 years before the Americas were even found, so it was going on there for 5 times the amount, 1,300 years or more. In fact, there was slavery there and in Yemen up until the 1960s and stuff, and just real rampant. Yeah, Caucasians were the people that ended slavery for everybody, and then the rest of the world had to slowly follow suit, and even people that lived off of it real bad, they try to act like Caucasians lived off of it, and that's disgusting. There were 6 times more Irish slaves than there were Negroid slaves. But let's finish off this Mansa Mussa.
And perhaps, most important of all, Lord of the Mines.
Ooh, so he can get a lot of money out of them mines too, man. Exploit and build up money. And then what does he do? Well, the story goes he blew it all on a pilgrimage to a Caucasian God. The Caucasian God, yeah, the Bible is all about Caucasians and, Noah and his kids, and they spread out and form mankind, and there's no Negroids in that. Hamites is a division of the Caucasian race. There isn't some popcorn Negro that shows up. There's not a popcorn Asian, Amerindian, Eskimo, India. None of that goes on to it. That's a Caucasian story, like India's got theirs and everything, and blacks aren't a part of the Bible in any way. But yeah, he blew it all. Yeah, kind of like, so I guess the synopsis is black man was put into power with a lot of money already. He exploited it real bad and got a whole lot of money, and then blew it all on a trip to pay homage to a white god.
A survey put Mansa Mussa as the world's richest man of all time. They estimated his fortune at some $400 billion. For comparison, Bill Gates came 12th on the list, with something close to a quarter of Mansa Mussa's wealth.
Well, this is comparison. That's what they say. Well, hell, back, my parents for $1 could fill up the car with gas and then go out and go to movies and go out to eat and both have burgers and shakes and have a nickel left over, my dad used to say, and everything. And of course that was just in the early 50s and stuff, but that world's gone. So if you'd say you had $100 back then, that's worth like $26,000 or $2,600 now or something. And so it radically changes things. But if you inflate for modern prices, you get something like that. Regardless, though, he's a pretty interesting figure, and interesting to see that what happened actually there at the end of the slave trade, and what blacks misconstrue and want to claim as their civilizations and where they come from. For they weren't that part of that either. They were the primitives that got taken to North America. They didn't know Mansa Mussa or anything about that.
Mussa is one of the most incredible characters in history.
Yep, so that's about it. And I could have gone into slavery like this and talk about how they straight talk about how it had gone on, and people for recorded history, way before recorded time, and it's not just a black thing. And you can just look up slavery and you see that. Of course, blacks don't want to see this. They because it exposes the fact that they were capturing and selling their own people off, like a drive-through slave mart, and the Fulani were attacking them from one area, and it was way out of hand, way out of hand. And no, Caucasians didn't start it, are the people that are blamed for it now. And hell, it was even called the Jewish slave trade, so it really isn't involving those people. For a large portion of the Caucasians that made up America were actually started off in slavery. But that's a whole different story, isn't it? And yeah, this goes on and on and on, and talks about all the practices and different things happened in early slavery in Africa and Egypt. They only say Egypt when they're talking about this, so a long time ago, because nobody knew Negroids existed until they get into the Middle Ages and it's exploited. But then down at the bottom, they talk about how Islam started it off early, and those Muslim Moors. And so if you want to see a picture of those Moors and a slave trade, here they're using a scale, and somebody has ended up buying a Negro, it looks like. And so here's your Moors, and so we was Moors is out too. But yeah, So apparently this man, or he's negotiating. Yeah. Okay, so guys, like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy, and we'll get on to the next one. Peace.